Crimson Desert is an open-world action RPG developed by Pearl Abyss, the studio best known for Black Desert. Now, it was originally announced years before its release, and the game evolved significantly throughout the development before launching earlier this year, a couple months ago. The game follows Cliff, the leader of the Greymanes, as players explore the continent of Pywell while engaging in story missions, exploration, combat, side activities, and numerous optional systems. Now, unlike many modern RPGs that focus primarily on combat and story progression, Crimson Desert incorporates a wide variety of gameplay systems, including exploration, traversal, mechanics, environmental puzzles, housing elements, mini-games, crafting activities, mount systems, and large-scale boss encounters. This broad scope, it immediately distinguished the game from many of its competitors. Now, this game was literally designed to be huge, to be something that is enormous, something that is expansive, something that's all-inclusive. It's one of those, it's more than an RPG type of game. And when you're playing it, you may notice that the story especially may not be something that is that prominent or something that's that pronounced or emphasized, but that's because of the massive ambition that is accompanied with this game. They put so much into the exploration and into the combat. You have so many things you want to do, whether you want to just bare-fisted beat people up, whether you want to use swords, spears, whether you want to body slam people, use abilities and magic, bow and arrow, long range attacks. You have a variety. You have literally a plethora and endless options to choose from as to how you want to navigate combat, and that's just one facet of the game. They have taken that mindset and applied it to other aspects of the overall world that they have established as well. So when it comes to housing, you can send your comrades that you find throughout the game, and as you progress the story, you can send them on missions, you can get materials, you can build houses, you can have a cook, you can have a blacksmith. It's like you're building your own community in real time. It's like a simulator type game trapped in an RPG, tied with a bow of an all-inclusive world that is literally endless and has many things for you to engage in. Now, why are so many people playing this game? I think one of Crimson Desert's greatest strengths is its broad appeal. The game attracts multiple audiences simultaneously. Action fans who enjoy challenging combat, RPG fans who enjoy character progression, explorers who enjoy discovering secrets, and sandbox players who enjoy experimenting with game systems. Few modern games attempt to satisfy all of these audiences at the same time. Many players report that they frequently become distracted from the main story because of the amount of content available throughout the world. Rather than moving directly from quest to quest, players often spend hours exploring caves, searching for collectibles, experimenting with mechanics, completing side activities, or simply traversing the environment. So me, for example, this is how my map currently looks on Crimson Desert. As you can see, I've barely made it out of Ernan. I've been playing this game for, nearly 40 hours now. I haven't touched Demonis. I haven't been further down to the southward of the map. I haven't been to Delicia. I haven't been to the Crimson Desert itself. I haven't also been to Payloon, which is where the protagonist Cliff, the leader of the Greymanes, that's where they're from. I haven't even been there. I've literally just been within the confines of Hernan, and as you can see, I haven't even completely filled that out. The game is massive. I was reading a comment section one time. I think it was under the comments of a Crimson Desert short on YouTube or something, and one of the commenters was like, this game is like the GTA for guys who like RPG and open world type games and combat games like this. And I kind of agreed with that. Like that, well, that's a pretty good comparison and something to relate that towards, is because the way people just fiend and how they fawn and they just salivate at the mouth when the thought of new GTA content or a GTA type of game or GTA itself. That's kind of like how we are when it comes to games like RPGs, an Elden Ring, Lords of the Fallen, Crimson Desert, Mortal Shell 2 is coming out, all types of things, stuff like that. This is kind of like the GTA for us. How excited we get for it, how there's just endless options, multiple things to do, the exploration, the side quest, the combat, the variety, just the sheer magnitude of the game. And there's literally constant distractions. As I said, I've been playing the game for nearly 40 hours now, which isn't a whole lot compared to a lot of people who literally put hundreds into it, but I'm literally in that first region, and I just keep getting distracted because there are new side quests, there are new factions to explore, there are new bandit camps for me to go and reclaim after they've taken it. I need to liberate it. There's a whole bunch of different things that you have to do, and those are just the combat-based things. That didn't even get into the simulator aspect of it, where you can have your own house, put your own furniture, plot your own land. You can hire people to do things. You can engage in trade and commerce. There's just so much stuff to do, and it's incredibly addicting. There's literally something. Each facet of the game, it may not be for you, but there's something for everybody. Now, to speak generally in terms of what players love about the game, I think the game's world design, the visual presentation, and combat system are consistently cited among its strongest features. Players often praise the sense of discovery that comes from exploring Pywell, noting that the world contains a large amount of optional content and hidden encounters that reward your curiosity. Another frequently mentioned positive is the game's value proposition. In an era where players often criticize games for lacking content at launch, Crimson Desert launched with an enormous amount of activities and systems already available. Many players feel like they received a substantial amount of content for the purchased price. The game's technical achievements are also noteworthy. Pearl Abyss invested heavily in environmental detail, physics interactions, weather effects, lighting technology, and large-scale encounters. This helps Crimson Desert stand out visually among contemporary releases. So, to sum this up, gamers receive bang for their buck. I think one of the biggest reasons people like or gravitate towards these massive types of RPG games, like an Elden Ring and like this, is because of not only the world design, but because there are not always going to be gamers who are buying these games simply for the combat or simply for some other aspect or component of that game. They want it because of the exploration. They simply just want to wander the map. I was watching a video about Crimson Desert from one of my favorite YouTubers, and in the video he said, I just want to get baked and wander the map. Now, I don't smoke, but I see why he would want to do that, because it's one of those games where there's just so much to do, and quite frankly, those will probably be some of your best gaming sessions. You don't even have to engage with an enemy one time, but just you sitting there wandering, riding on your horse, carrying livestock and animals, befriending dogs and taking them back to your home base camp. Just doing stuff like that would probably turn to be one of your most fruitful gaming sessions and the most entertaining ones. I think you just get such an excellent degree of value for the money that you have to pay for this game that your options are just endless. And it's just a technical showcase as to what can happen and what can be produced when the developers literally pour everything into it. They've literally taken every avenue that they could have in regards to their creativity, and they have maximized it. And the product, the finished product, the birth is this game. Now, I'm a gamer, you're a gamer, we all know how gamers are. You can't please everybody. There's always going to be someone who complains, there's always going to be criticisms, there's always going to be controversies. Despite its popularity, Crimson Desert did not launch without criticism. Some players reported issues with controls, user interface design, tutorials, and certain gameplay systems that lacked polish, so to speak. Others felt overwhelmed by the number of mechanics introduced early in the experience. Several reviewers argue that the game's ambition occasionally works against it because Crimson Desert attempts to do so many things at once. Some players believe certain systems could have benefited from additional refinement or simplification. Technical issues were also reported by portions of the player base at launch. While many players enjoyed stable experiences, others encountered bugs, performance concerns, or quality of life frustrations that impacted their overall impressions of the game. So truth be told, just to play Switzerland here and be objective, generally I like the game. I love the game, but I can see why people are saying, hey, this may benefit from simplification. There are certain systems in place that probably may have too much complexity, especially in the early game. There's a lot of foundational skills that they give you, as they do in the early game. You're doing that tutorial aspect where you're learning how to play. And the thing about Crimson Desert is that it has very unique button mapping. The default button mapping is very unique. It's not what you would think. You're jumping with square, you're sprinting with X, you're rolling and dodging with circle, so that's pretty consistent. But a lot of the baseline controls and functions that you learn and how the controller is mapped is very difficult to learn and to adjust to that, especially when you're coming off an Elden Ring or some other RPG game that has easier controls to master and to learn and understand. And then not just the controller mapping, but just the amount of abilities that they give you at once in the beginning. There's like 4 or 5 different things within the first few minutes of the game, and you're like, what? I don't even remember how to swing my sword. I don't even remember how to run. I'm still trying to get accustomed to that. And they kind of just throw you into this horde of like 30 guys while you're fighting, which I actually love that sequence. But there are going to be some people who are like, well, this game may have too much ambition and may not have enough polish because it just may simply be too complex. The systems may be viewed as overwhelming. And then there are also the launch problems that people are talking about with the bugs and the UI. Now, granted, I didn't experience any of that, but then again, I didn't buy the game right at launch. I bought this maybe a month after when I bought Crimson Desert. So I can understand how they would say, the bugs at launch is something that you don't like. It's undesirable, obviously, to both you and to the developers. But look at the massive size of this game. People will find anything to really complain about. Let's say your sword is sticking out of your cape, or your shield is messing with the flow of your cape or your cloak or whatever, or something like that. Like some sort of graphical issue. Like, who cares about that stuff in the grand scheme of things? You're in a massive RPG game in this massive world with endless things to do. But I get the more streamlined complaints and criticisms when it comes to how complex the game is. I think that's understandable. Now, I find this next point interesting, and that's the too much game debate. One of the most interesting discussions surrounding Crimson Desert is that some criticisms stem directly from one of the game's biggest strengths, its size and its scope. The game offers an enormous amount of content, but not every player values that level of scale, apparently. Some players prefer streamlined experiences that can be completed within a few dozen hours. Crimson Desert instead offers a world designed to occupy players for months. This has created an unusual debate where some players praise the sheer amount of available content, while others feel intimidated or exhausted by it. The discussion reflects a broader trend, I think, within gaming. Players frequently criticize games for feeling empty, repetitive, or lacking content. However, when a title launches with an overwhelming amount of content, some players express the opposite concern. Crimson Desert has become a prime example of this contradiction. Now, this gaming paradox, truth be told, it's very senseless to me, and I don't really see the problem with having too much content. I don't really think that's a thing, because aside from having all these side quests and all these things that you can do and all these things that serve as distractors in the game also has a mainline narrative of which you can follow, of which I've heard is not that long. I haven't even completed the narrative because I'm so busy with everything else. But the developers did not remove your autonomy as a gamer. You can choose whether you just want to do the story, complete the game, put the controller down, and then play something else, or if you want to explore or find more weapons or do the simulator aspect of the game or to do all these other things. No one is forcing gamers to say, hey, you need to complete all this. You need to platinum this game. You need to do this. No one's asking you to do that. Why are you complaining about that? When a game doesn't have much, it doesn't feel polished, it doesn't feel like the developers care or put enough into it, you complain. And then when they do the polar opposite and actually give gamers what they want, which is something of sheer magnitude, but not solely of sheer magnitude, it also has depth and quality, you still complain. So you get your bang for your buck, you get everything that you criticized them for prior, they actually deliver that in this title, and then you still complain. You can't please them. It's literally impossible to do that. And regardless of individual opinions about the game itself, Pearl Abyss has earned praise for its post-launch support. Following release, the studio quickly acknowledged community concerns and began issuing updates aimed at addressing players' feedback. Early patches focused on quality of life improvements, gameplay adjustments, user interface enhancements, balance changes, and bug fixes. Additional updates refine various systems and improve the overall experience based on player feedback. In an industry where some developers take months to respond to community concerns, Pearl Abyss demonstrated a willingness to react quickly and communicate with their players. This responsiveness has contributed significantly to improving community sentiment following launch. In addition to Pearl Abyss, who is amazing at this, another developer that does this is also the guys who make Lords of the Fallen, CI Games. People were giving complaints after complaints after complaints for that game, and instead of just complaining or just shutting that off and kind of shirking at the responsibility that they newly had of having to optimize this new title that they produced, what they did is they just put their heads down, they work hard, and they updated their game, they made it better, they improved the quality of life of what they have created. And Pearl Abyss has done the same thing. It's developers like this that you want to have because they care about what the audience are saying and they care about their craft, because making video games is an art. That's an art form, and they hope to master this. They have mastered it to an extent. You can argue that they have. This game is amazing to play. So instead of just letting those criticisms go by unanswered, they fixed every last one of them. And now the game is not perfect. There's always going to be something that's wrong with it. Nothing is perfect. But the more complaints or suggestions or things that gamers submit to developers, the more that they will change, especially when you're talking to developers like CI Games or like Pearl Abyss, who actually care and who work very hard. Just days after launch, they responded and started updating the games and the UI and the bug fixes and all these other things. And with CI Games and Lords of the Fallen, they only recently, like a few months back, stopped updating and releasing Lords of the Fallen 2023. And that's because they have the new Lords of the Fallen game about to come out this year. So when developers care, you can tell they care. It may not be the perfect product that you want, but you want to have a perfect developer, as close as perfect as you can get, who cares about their game and what they have made and how it's going to be received. Its reception is more important than what they think of the game themselves. I think this game represents a type of game that has become increasingly rare with the modern industry, a large-scale, highly ambitious project willing to take risks and incorporate numerous gameplay systems into a single experience. Whether players ultimately love or dislike the game, its existence demonstrates that there is still demand for ambitious open-world experiences that prioritize scale, experimentation, and player freedom. The game's commercial success suggests that many players remain interested in large adventures that offer long-term engagement. Personally, I think this game's future will more or less depend on the support that Pearl Abyss receives and the willingness to refine the experiences that players undergo as they play the game, and they've shown no sign of not abiding by that and not wanting to continue to refine the game for people playing it. And the most interesting thing is probably that at launch it sparked all these conversations about the game content size, scale versus quality, quality versus scale, and whether it's too much games. It sparked debates about player expectations, about what audiences truly desire in an RPG type game. So at the very least, it's opened up the discussion for further improvements in gaming down the line, which is what we all want. Further quality of life when it comes to not only the games we play, but the overall industry and the people who makes them. So whether you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever, let me know in the comments. I'm Harlem. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.